Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited about this video because we went to Nashville and Hudson and I had the best trip and I want to tell you guys all about it. I've been wanting to chat about this so much, but when I was in Nashville, I just didn't have a second to sit down and talk about it. The first day that I sat down to talk about it, I was outside, I got all ready, and then my dad and my boyfriend were mowing the lawn, and you'd think that would take like an hour, but we have 15 acres, so it took them like 4 hours, so Hudson and I just sat outside, and every time I would try to record, you would hear it in the background, and that just drove me crazy. So I ended up not being able to record while we were there. But one thing I've been seeing a lot of is people thinking I live in Nashville. We do not live in Nashville. I have my Howdy sweatshirt on now, but we have a second house there my parents just bought, so we spend a lot of time there. We actually live in California, in Calabasas, which is a little outside of LA. Okay, so I wanna talk about flying with my dog and how I fly with him because I get this question a lot. I share a lot about flying with my Frenchie, Hudson, on my Instagram page, but I wanna go into more detail. I will also be making another video on this topic, specifically on flying with your dog. This was kind of like a vlog with a little bit of details on flying with your dog, so definitely keep your eye out for that. And if you have any questions about flying with your dog, leave them in the comments below, and I will do a video just answering your questions because I have so many questions that I wanna sit down and talk to you guys about. First things first is I book my ticket and then I will book Hudson. So there's a few ways to do it on Delta. I'm gonna be specific to Delta in this video just because that's what we flew on this trip. But in my longer video, I will talk about different airlines. You can book on the phone with the representative or you can text. I'll put a little text box right here of what it looks like. I decided to text this time because when I called, it was like a 3-hour wait. So I was like, I'll try out the texting. The texting was amazing. It was quick. They were great. And then I had the receipt through the text. So that was amazing. So you just add them to your ticket and you will pay when you get to the check-in counter. When you are texting Delta, they will ask you a few things like what the breed of your dog is, what the weight of your dog is, and the carrier size. There's not a weight requirement or weight restriction when flying with them right now in the States, but there is a carrier size requirement. The carrier can't be too big, so make sure you look at the requirements. I will put the size requirement right here. There are a few different options depending on the airplane you're on, but I have a standard one. I really like it, and I will link the carrier that I have below. It expands, and Hudson loved that this trip. I just started using that on this trip. So they will ask all those things and then they will confirm that they are added to your ticket. One thing to make sure you know is you cannot pre-check in when traveling with a pet. You do have to check in at the airport. They do have a special check-in line at LAX when flying with Delta. You go to the priority check-in and you go in agent assist line, and that's where you check in when traveling with a dog. The thing that's really important to remember is booking your dog's ticket is important before you travel because a lot of airlines have a restriction on how many animals are allowed on each flight. So I'm just gonna kind of quickly go over, make sure you book your ticket before you fly with Delta. You can book with a representative or through text. Make sure you get the correct carrier size. Make sure that you arrive early because you cannot pre-check in and you do not need any paperwork, but again, double check where you're flying into because we did not need any paperwork, but I wanna make sure you have all of the right information. So just double check. I'll put a link below where you can check on Delta. Another thing I have been seeing a lot of is a lot of people saying Frenchies can't fly. And I know that is a very confusing one and something that can be controversial and a lot of people aren't, 100% sure on, but Hudson is a Frenchie and a snub-nosed dog and he can fly and so can a lot of Frenchies, but there are different guidelines. So you gotta make sure that your dog fits in the carrier, that they aren't too big, and I always recommend asking your vet before flying because they are snub-nosed dogs. So before I flew with Hudson for the first time, I did ask my vet and he told me that it was safe for Hudson to fly, and I have had amazing experiences when flying with Hudson. The only thing I recommend doing is making sure you're paying super close attention to them because Frenchies can get hot a little quicker. That's my experience with Hudson. I've only flown with a Frenchie, which is Hudson. So I always ask for ice when I sit down, and I put it on his body so that it cools him down, because usually if he gets a little hot at the beginning, it's because he's kind of like, I don't want to be in this carrier. But once I set the ice here and like behind his ears, he usually will calm down and just go to sleep and sleep the rest of the flight. I also bring pet CBD when flying with Hudson. So those are a few things I do when flying with Hudson, and that is how I book his ticket. I am again just sharing my experience with Delta this time because that is the trip we just went on, but I will do a video on different airlines and more details on that. Morning, we are just getting ready to head to the airport because we are going to Nashville today. We had a really interesting flying experience this time. I have flown a good amount of times with Hudson, but this time was definitely interesting, so I wanted to talk about it a little because I feel like in my reels, and I do talk about it a lot, I have had really great experiences, but things do happen. You are flying with a dog, and I want you to know that things can happen. He got up, I was ready to vlog the whole thing. That did not really happen. I definitely got a lot of content, but I thought I was gonna be talking and recording through the whole airport. Yeah, that didn't happen because we almost missed our flight. So we get there and I get out of the car and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna zip Hudson up this time before I get to the check-in counter. Usually I'll put his carrier on top of my suitcase and I let his head pop out because then he gets comfortable in his carrier. So that helps a lot. Major tip, that helps Hudson a lot, and I didn't do that this time and I regret it. So when I first got in the airport, I'm like, I'm gonna zip him up, he'll be good. I zip him up, not really thinking about it, and we had to stand in the line for a little bit, and he started to get a little antsy, but I was like, we're almost to the check-in counter, I'm just gonna keep him zipped up. It'll make the whole process quicker, and once we're through, I'll unzip him. Well, he then got really mad that he was zipped up and didn't have enough time to settle down, so I unzipped it, and he was panting, and he was hot, and then I was stressed because I wanted him to be comfortable, but I needed to check in. So we go up to the check-in counter, we check in, it was smooth, easy, they pull up my name, they pull up Hudson, and everything's good. I just pay for Hudson, and then my family finishes checking in, and I went outside. Something to remember, that it does take a little extra time when traveling with a dog. You want them to be comfortable. Instead of rushing to security, I went outside, I took Hudson out of his carrier, I took his bed out, I took the like fuzzy part out, and I let him cool off. This was game changing because if I didn't do that, he would have been so frustrated, he would have overheated. So I'm really glad I did that. I definitely made the mistake of zipping him up too early, which I know does not work for him. He is a stubborn Frenchie, and if he doesn't lay down when he wants to, he definitely gets mad at me. So once I cooled him off, I put him back in his carrier and I just let him sit there. We go to security and I get in line, and we're about to walk through where the dogs sniff you, like at LAX. And I was like, this seems weird. I don't think I just walked through here. And a girl's like yelling at me, she's like, come here, come here. I was like, okay. So I walk over to her, she's like, do not go through there. I was like, okay, sorry. So she escorts me up the side. I then get connected with another security person. They take me to the front of the line and they escort me all the way through security. I skipped all the lines and go directly through. They wipe your hands down once you get through security, and then you're all set. So then I get through security and I'm waiting for my family and my boyfriend, and we're all just talking, and I take Hudson out of his carrier and I'm like, oh, I'll let him walk, he can just relax, and then I'll put him in a little before we board our flight. We walk all the way to the end, which wasn't that big at the terminal we were at, and I'm like, wait, the gate's back that way. So we walk back, I'm letting Hudson like casually walk, I'm not even thinking about it, and then we get closer to our gate and I hear my name over the loudspeaker and they're like, you're the last to board, you need to get on now or you're not gonna make your flight. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to get Hudson back in his carrier really quick, which again, if he gets put in and he doesn't have time to lay down, he is not happy. So I put him in, and I'm definitely feeling overwhelmed, and I'm just crossing my fingers that we have super nice flight attendants. I board the plane, Hudson's already laying down. And as I board, the flight attendant asked me what I had in my bag. I was like, oh, it's a Frenchie. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she was so sweet and so nice. And I asked her if she could bring me ice when I sat down. She asked me my seat number, and right when I sat down, they brought me ice. I immediately put it on Hudson, and then he went to sleep, and we had a great flight. So it was a good travel day. It was a little hectic. I feel like when I sat down, I was definitely like, oh, okay, we made it, we're good. Because there were just so many unknowns. Like I said, if there are unknowns, it can make it overwhelming. So that is why I share my tips and my experiences, so that you can kind of have an idea of what to expect when traveling with your dog. Just remember, give yourself enough time before you travel. I usually do give myself a lot of time, and I don't know, it was an early flight, so it was just a little bit of a busy day. Good job, Hudson. It was honestly so much fun. We were about to land, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have Hudson's cowboy hat. I need to put it on him. We were in the way back of the flight, and I knew that was perfect. I was like, everybody will get off, and then I'll stay on until the very last person. I looked at Evan, and I was like, give me the cowboy hat, I need it. And he gave it to me, and as everybody got off, I picked Hudson up and put him on the seat in his carrier, and one of the flight attendants was like, oh my gosh, he did so good. I said, thank you so much. Do you think it'd be okay if I took some pictures with him? And he was like, yeah, of course. He was so nice, and all the flight attendants came over to me, and I put Hudson's cowboy hat on, and they were all talking and so sweet. We are all in our PJs because we got up and decided to go on a walk with our coffee, and Hudson is seriously so excited. The property goes to there. It's 15 acres. It goes over to those trees and drops down a little. You can't see it, but right by that little shed, it drops down. And then there's an area for animals. That is the barn, and we will be redoing that and turning it into a guest house. And then behind those trees right there is the house, and we will also be redoing the house. That is the pond. And there's everyone. You can't really see the whole property from here, but we're on top of this hill, so it's a good place to be standing to show you guys. Evan and I are just heading out to the gym. We actually haven't been to this gym, so we're super excited to check it out. I am doing a spin class with my cousin, and Evan is doing his trainer workout, but it's going to be so much fun. Oh, really?
Thank you.
Hudson's little spot out front. We just got back from the gym, and now we are getting ready because we are heading to downtown Franklin to do a hotel collaboration, and I am very excited for that. I feel like I'm just chatting with you guys, and it's so much fun. We stayed at a hotel when we were in Nashville. We stayed in downtown Franklin. Downtown Franklin is a really dog-friendly town, and we had a lot of fun. We tried a new restaurant. The hotel was accommodating and gave Hudson treats, and it was really great. We had so much fun just being able to escape for a night and stay at a hotel. Another thing we did while we were there is I got Evan a flying lesson. It was a surprise for his birthday. I was actually on Instagram one day and somebody posted that their husband owned that company. I reached out to her. She was so sweet. She actually makes dog treats. I will link her below. She is amazing. And they set me up to surprise Evan with a flying lesson. I will share some of those videos. We had so much fun. I got to join them and sit in the back. I thought it was gonna be a little scary, but it was really fun. When we got there, Evan had no idea. He pulled up and he's like, what are we doing? And then I told him and he's like, that's a little scary, but I'm excited. I had never heard him say something was scary. He does like paragliding, kiting, and he does all those things, but he told me after it was so much fun and it really wasn't scary. He was really good at it. I don't know if I would be that great at it, but I liked sitting in the back for the ride. Are you excited?
I am excited. All scary.
Went to a baseball game while we were in Nashville. You can bring your dogs. I didn't bring Hudson because it was raining, but every other Tuesday they do a meetup with a bunch of dogs and it's so cute. They do a lot of different things within the baseball field where you can meet up in different spots for the dogs. I will share where you can find that information below also. I want to continue sharing about flying with your dog. I will definitely be putting a video up soon about all the tips on traveling with your dog with different airlines. I will also be answering all your questions, so make sure you leave any questions you have about traveling with your dog below because I will be answering all those soon. I will also be sharing more dog-friendly places in Nashville as we explore, and I will be sharing more about our house. I am so happy that you are here, and I am so grateful that you watched our video and for all your support. If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I am so excited to continue sharing our life with you.